Okay, so now this next video I'm going to be doing is over patient transfers, restraints, and moving a patient in bed and ambulation. The restraint one, I'm going to go ahead and start with that just because it's the one that I know the least about. There wasn't really a video for it, and so I'm just kind of going off of what everyone else said. I also don't really have anything to use for it or anything to tie it to. So I'm going to go ahead and just use this gait belt. So from what I understood is that you would want to, I'm just going to use the leg of my table because I literally don't have anything to like restrain anything to. And you can't even see it. Okay, so here's the leg of my table. I don't really know if you can see that at all. So basically I would just loop it around the bottom of the bed, like the foot rails. You definitely don't want to do it around the handrails because those can move, can cause injury, and it can cause like pretty much there's no purpose in a restraint at that point. So once you have it looped around, then you're just gonna go over the top, and then, oh, this is hard with the gait belt, and then you're gonna come back through, except for when you come back through like this, you wouldn't pull the ends through, which I can't, with this gait belt, I don't really know if this is going to work. Yeah, it's not. Basically, essentially, you would have two loops. One, that way, let me see if I can do it with my nasogastric tube. So we're going to use my leg. So you would do this, and then you're just going to go over, and then you would come back under, and instead of pulling that end all the way through, you're just gonna leave a loop like this. That way the patient can't move it, but if you need to get it undone quick, you just pull this end and it comes right undone. So that's pretty much the restraint. Now for doing safe patient transfers, as you could already see, I do actually have a gait belt here with me. So we're just gonna use my patient Rusco here first. The first one I'm gonna do is transferring him to a wheelchair. I don't really have a wheelchair or a chair that's very small, so we're gonna be using my bar stool. So the first thing you do is you just come in, knock, knock. Hi, my name is Kylie. I'm gonna be the Butler student nurse. We're gonna go ahead and get you into the wheelchair so we can get you to the bathroom or get you down to the dinner area or whatever it is you need to transfer them for. So then you would come in, you'd remove their blankets, please get down, remove their blankets, go ahead and put their bed up to the point to where their feet are just kind of like hovering over the ground so they have enough to get them off the bed. And then you're going to go ahead, you can sit the head up if you want, if it helps them, or you can help them sit up, or if they can do it on their own, that works great too. So for Rusco here, he's kind of immobile since he's just a teddy bear. So I'm going to go ahead and get him out of bed. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to let him know what we're going to be doing. I'm going to put my hand back here behind his head while I grab his legs here. And we're just going to kind of do a swing and sit type motion all at one time. And then once he's on the side of the bed, you just want to ask him and make sure that he's not feeling dizzy or that he's feeling okay, and that he's ready to move on with getting into the wheelchair. So once he's stated that he's okay and he's ready to go, that's when you're going to take your gait belt and you're going to put it around him, like so. If you're using a gait belt on a woman, the biggest thing I can say is just make sure that you don't pinch their breasts. Either go above them or under them, just because it hurts. And then for men, if it's someone that's a little bit bigger, just make sure, honestly, no matter who it is, that you get it nice and snug, because otherwise, if it's loose and you go to save someone from falling, or try to catch them and let them down to the ground, or whatever the case may be, you're not going to have a lot of leverage because it's loose. So you're going to feed it through the teeth first. Make sure it's nice and snug. And I'm going to stick it through here. And if there's a lot of extra stuff left, you can always just loop it through the belt on the side so it doesn't get caught or, dangle in the toilet or anything like that, because I've definitely had it happen. And then once he's like this and ready to go, again, just reiterate and ask him, like, are you ready to get to the wheelchair? And then also just make sure you know how much help they're going to need. So like I said, for him, he's pretty immobile since he's just a teddy bear. So I'm going to pretty much help him get into the wheelchair. He doesn't have much help for me. So the biggest thing with this is you want to make sure that you're lifting with your knees and your legs, not your back. Because otherwise you can seriously hurt yourself, especially if it's a heavy patient. So the first thing I'm going to do, he's really short, but essentially I would want to get my feet shoulder width apart, standing kind of in front of him. Kind of knee to knee if you can, especially if his legs have like, you know, if they slide out from under him or whatever the case may be. So then I'm just going to grab him from right here on either side, and then I'm going to count to 3, and then we're going to stand and we're going to get to the wheelchair, okay? So we're going to go 1, 2, and 3, and you're going to lift once he's standing, and then you're just going to pivot with him and sit him down. Now, if this was someone who didn't need as much help, you would essentially just kind of have to stand next to them. Make sure that your hand is under the gait belt like this. And then if they're ready to stand, you can just go, okay, 1, 2, 3. They're going to stand. You're going to tell them to pivot this way. And then you can kind of hold them from the front and like help them back up onto the chair. So it's really just kind of dependent upon how much assistance your patient needs. So yeah. And then from the wheelchair, I'm going to assist him in ambulating. So we're going to pretend like it's a new patient and he can walk since he can't. And so it was kind of the same thing as that last one. Once they're ready, once they're sitting on the side of the bed, you just make sure you ask them, you know, are you feeling dizzy at all? Do you feel lightheaded? Are you ready to walk? Whatever. Make sure that their cane or their walker's nearby or whatever the case may be. And then once they're ready to stand, you're just going to grab the gait belt like this. You're going to count to 3 again. You're going to go 1, 2, 3, and stand them up. Once they're standing, you want to make sure you ask them again, you know, are you dizzy? Are you lightheaded? Are you feeling okay? Are you ready to walk? And then if they are, you can just stand right next to them as they go. Or even sometimes, just depending if they don't need as much assistance, I'll follow behind. Especially to get through like doorways and stuff. Sometimes that makes it easier if you're behind them rather than next to them. But yeah, so that's ambulating. Let me see. Moving a patient in bed is the only other one I need to do in this video. So for that, we're going to lay him back down. I'm going to take his gait belt off. When you move a patient up in bed, you always want to make sure that you have another person with you, just because honestly it's really hard to do by yourself. I've done it before and it's not the safest, but you know, when you have a patient that's like 50-some pounds and you don't have help at the moment and their feet are touching the footboard, you kind of have to come up with stuff on the spot. So we're just going to make sure he's laid back down. Now, some facilities call the things that go under them that you can move bed pads. I've heard them called chucks. I've heard them call, I don't know, all sorts of things. We call them bed pads at my work, so that's what I'm going to call them. And that's normally what we use to move patients up in bed. Most of the time, it's policy for us that we already have those laying on the bed, so I would never really have to go in and put one underneath someone. But if you did, you would just use the same rolling technique as you did for making the bed. So fortunately for me, his bed pad, his chuck is already down, and I have my imaginary helper on that side. So what we would do is we'd make sure that his bed's flat. We'd also make sure that the bed's high enough for both of us to not hurt our backs. We'd also make sure that both the side rails are down so we can properly get to the patient. So then we can go ahead and remove the pillow. My patient's standing over there. We're each going to grab the side of the bed pad, and then essentially on the count of 3, we would just kind of tug him up using the bed pad. We'd have the patient, kind of make this with their arms so they're not getting in the way. But yeah, so make sure that you always have 2 people with that. Otherwise, it's really probably not going to work. If you have a super heavy patient, some things that I've found too is even like, unless it's contraindicated, of course, moving the legs up and the head down so you can kind of get that downward slope to help you if you guys are struggling. But other than that, for transferring, ambulating, and moving a patient in bed, that's pretty much it. Again, make sure you're always foaming in and out. Make sure you're always introducing yourself, identifying the patient.